I was on the deep web after hearing all the craze about it. I had to explore, curious to find the really interesting links. Most of the links just led to pages listing hundreds of other pages. It seemed like an endless cycle of pointless content until I stumbled upon a very dark-themed website. It wasn't a horror story site, but a sinister place with a disturbing banner featuring a girl no older than 12, blindfolded, with slits in her mouth and bruises covering her face. I never realized how dark the internet could get, but after seeing that image, I knew it could only get worse. Despite the horror, something compelled me to click through the forums. Each post was littered with brutal, gut-wrenching pictures of children ranging from babies to teenagers, all being tortured. I can't describe in detail what I saw, but I want you to understand the horrors that exist on the deep web. One post, titled, "Followed 10-year-old home, successfully knocked out and brought back, haunted me." The pictures showed a boy tied to a chair, attached to a torture machine that resembled something from a Saw movie. The further I scrolled, the more horrifying it became. I couldn't finish that post. Another post linked to a video of a newborn being dipped into boiling water. I managed to watch only 10 seconds before shutting it off. As a former camp counselor, this hit even closer to home. Years ago, a girl from my camp had gone missing, and everyone eventually assumed she was dead. That assumption was confirmed when I saw her mutilated but still recognizable body in one of the posts. I threw up, overwhelmed by the horror. I immediately called the police and showed them the site and the picture of the missing child. Though they gave me a lecture about reporting it the wrong way, they took down the URL and thanked me for finding it. It took much longer than I had hoped for the site to be shut down. To this day, I have no idea if they ever caught the people behind it or those posting on that forum. One night I caught my brother browsing a strange website. It was filled with images of guns and illegal drugs. We're close, so we don't usually hide things from each other. When I asked him about it, he admitted he was buying weed from a site called Mr. Nice Guy Market. I warned him that it was illegal and he'd get caught, but he insisted that he was safe and anonymous on the deep web. I told him it was nonsense, but he claimed he'd done it at least 10 times before without issue. Ignoring my advice, my brother found a new listing for cannabis called the Poison Queen, which had just one positive review. I suggested he choose a seller with more ratings, but he brushed me off, acting like a pro. The seller was in our state, which he said meant quick delivery. My brother then used an encryption program to send the seller his name, address, and other details, which I reminded him was a terrible idea. He reassured me that everything would be fine. A week later, my brother grew anxious, thinking he'd been scammed. Then, coincidentally, there was a heavy knock at the door. Nervously, I assumed it was the police, but the reality was far worse. My brother opened the door to find a sketchy man with messy hair, a brown beard, a fat belly, and a fake-looking Rolex. The man asked for my brother by name, and I saw my brother step back, shocked. The man asked if my brother had bought weed, to which my brother mumbled, "I thought you'd ship it." The man gestured for us to follow him outside to his van. I told my brother not to go, but he ignored me, so I followed him to make sure nothing happened. As we approached the van, I noticed someone in a ski mask peeking out from the passenger window. The man noticed too and motioned for the person to get down. Instantly, I grabbed my brother and dragged him back inside the house, locking the door just as the man began chasing us. They must have assumed our parents weren't home, as there were no cars in the driveway. The man started banging on the door, but by some stroke of luck, a large man walking his dog passed by and noticed what was happening. He confronted the man, who quickly ran off, and we watched the van drive away. When my dad got home, I was eager to tell him everything, even if it meant ratting out my brother. But as I ran out to meet him, I noticed the same van parked halfway down the block. Seconds later, it drove off, and I haven't seen it since. It's been 3 months, and I think my brother learned his lesson about messing around on the deep web.